What we're seeing now, then, are Gentile believers in various Messianic and Hebrew root circles who are keeping Torah, reading from the Talmud, and adopting and emulating various religious and cultural traditions of Judaism, but absent any substantial or intentional ties to Jewish believers. And despite what you or I may feel are the merits or drawbacks with any of these Jewish customs, my concern is that when a Gentile believer practices his Messianic faith this way, without a connection to Jewish believers, regardless of intent, that it may at best be a form of Jewish appropriation, and at worst, a form of soft anti-Semitism. Again, I'm just voicing my concern, because this is what the Master Yeshua says in Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. I have known the evil speaking by those saying themselves to be Yehudim, Jews, and are not, but are a synagogue of Hasatan. The irony of this verse, of course, is that Christians often attribute the label synagogue of Satan to Jews, citing their rejection of Yeshua and persecution of the early Jewish believers. But beside the fact that the immediate context gives us no hint of this, it ought to be obvious that the Master is referring here to Jewish impostors, in the same way that he's referring to apostolic impostors just 7 verses earlier in Revelation chapter 2, verse 2, when he refers to those saying themselves to be emissaries, but are not. It follows the same pattern as in verse 9. So unless we're going to read the passage inconsistently, the plain sense is that Yeshua is singling out those who call themselves Jews, but are not, meaning Gentiles who are impersonating and living like Jews. The passage doesn't give us any more information, so I don't want to speculate about it. But at a very minimum, it should at least serve as a warning and cause Gentile Messianic believers to pause and think about what they're doing. When I see Yeshua talking about those saying themselves to be Jews and are not, from my perspective, this looks and sounds a lot like what goes on among many Gentile Messianic believers today, that they exchange Christianity either for a Messianic form of Judaism or a Jewish-flavored Christianity. Or worse, try to make themselves look outwardly Jewish with long beards and head coverings and prayer shawls, or worse still, consider themselves actual Israelites and assume a yoke and a heritage that God never gave them, rejecting the ethnicity into which God brought them into the world and not remaining in the calling in which they were called, as Paul puts it in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 20. That really concerns me. I realize that many well-meaning Messianics come into this way of life, only trying to emulate Yeshua and to be more biblical. And I applaud and welcome that wholeheartedly. But there are ways to do that without defrauding Jews of their uniqueness as a people treasured as God's own, and trying to become something that you're not. God doesn't want every believer to be Jewish or Israelite. His children come from every nation, tribe, and language.